buggy bumpers, oh, whoops, sorry. Hey, we're live. Hello. Welcome to Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Podcast, your go-to source for all things related to living, working, and playing on the East Side. I'm your host, Dan Edwards, the managing broker for the Eastside Real Estate team. It is Wednesday, May 31st, and we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Please feel free to comment and share. If you're listening to a recorded version on YouTube, Google, or Apple or podcast, you can subscribe. You can rate our podcasts. We are anywhere podcasts can be found. So we're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, we're on Spotify, and a few others. But those are kind of like the big deals. We got a great show for you today. Today, we're going to be welcoming Tucker Maxwell, Guild Mortgage. We're going to be talking about some construction loans. Brandon Brockway, Brandon Brockway. See, that's why I was doing the exercises. Brockway Ring of Key Inspection Services, and then new member of the Eastside Real Estate team, David Stallings of D-Stall Home Services, and a broker on the team. Now, before we get to our guests, we're going to start out like we do every segment with a Real Talk section. Today is fun. We're talking about buying a vacation home and why it beats renting one this summer. So many of us visit the same vacation spot every year. It's like a summer tradition. It's fun, relaxing, it's restful. If that sounds like you, it may be time to think about your plans and determine on whether or not buying a vacation home makes more sense than renting one out again. So according to Forbes, the idea of vacationing at the same place every year makes you feel instantly relaxed. Now, show of hands, okay, it's just me. How many times if you go to different places, how it can be unfamiliar? If you're a family person, you've got to get the family there, you get them safe and sound, get them situated. But when you end up going to the same vacation home, some of that preparation for the vacation takes the stress away. So let's talk about the benefits of owning a vacation home. Now, don't worry about finding, the one thing is you don't have to worry about finding a place to stay. Sometimes it can be a challenge if you want to go to your favorite spot in, say, Lake Chelan, or perhaps you want to go to Tahoe, or maybe it's Sun Valley, Idaho in the wintertime. And that place may be booked up and the family's disappointed. And they're disappointed in you, Dad, because you didn't get the place that we like. So it can be a super convenient place to have a place that you're also having quality time with your friends or family, but also you're actually turning it into an investment. Perhaps while you're not there, you're able to do short-term or even a long-term rental, especially in an area where it's growing. I think my wife's grandfather, I guess it's my grandfather-in-law, bought a piece of property 1 block off the lake in Incline Village. Forget this, $5,000. $5,000. Isn't that crazy? The homes on the lake go for $4 to $7 million. He was able to go up there every summer, winter, and they built a house on it and then sold that house. It was a huge disappointment, but we spent our vacations there every summer. We'd go out there for 10 days and just relax. We knew we had a place to stay. We got to visit with great family, go down to the lake and all those kinds of things. So there's also tax benefits that come with it. Consult your CPA. Now, one of the other things is how do you go about it? And here's the thing is finding a pro is super important. A lot of people show up at some of these vacation spots and they get hooked in by people that are looking for the opportunity of helping people. That's great. I mean, there's people have been stuck in timeshares as a result. Not me, that didn't happen to me, but I know people who it's happened to. The best thing to do is to find a local resource who has a history of success in that area. And we've spoken on this podcast before how the Eastside Real Estate team is part of the largest brokerage firm in the world, Keller Williams. And one of the cool, insightful tools that we have is the ability to actually drill into a specific neighborhood and find out the agents that are representing buyers in that specific location. It could be a real boon to have somebody who knows exactly what they're doing to help you avoid certain complexes or HOAs that don't allow short-term rentals. So reach out to us as a source. The bottom line, if any of these reasons on a vacation home resonate with you, let's connect. We can actually set up a search for you today. Keller Williams has the largest network MLS in the country. As a matter of fact, we cover the entire country. We cover Rome, Italy. Okay, so if you're going there, we will also cover, I think, Cabo San Lucas. I have a great agent who I know personally who's an agent there. And I think we even had him on the podcast once. We'll work on having more agents from your vacation. And if you go ahead and comment on this video, some locations that you're interested in, we'll explore that for you. All right. So if you're thinking about it, let's talk. That is our Real Talk segment. Next up, we are welcoming Tucker Maxwell from Guild Mortgage right after this short commercial break.
The pest stops here. Green City Pest Control is your full-service pest solution for all your pest control needs. With an owner with 32 years experience, a board-certified entomologist, and rodent specialist, we do it all. Bats to rats, crawl space, or attic. Call us and we will resolve your problem. 425-413-9700.
Did that cut off again? I think we need to look into what's going on with that. It cut off for me. I don't know if it cut off for you, but that's why I wasn't like, boom, on point. Welcome back to the show. Dan Edwards here, managing broker of the Eastside Real Estate Team and your host for Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Podcast. We are now welcoming to our show good friend Tucker Maxwell back to the podcast to talk about renovation home loans. Sweet. How are you doing, Tucker?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me back.
How was your week last week, your Memorial Day weekend? We talked about some fun things that we all had going. How was yours?
It was awesome. I actually climbed Mount Mailbox Peak for the first time.
All right. Did you go up the one side, down the other?
I did. Yep. The old trail up, the new trail down.
Awesome. Congratulations on that one. And was the weather nice for you?
It was cloudy the whole way up and then broke through right at the summit. So it was the best of both worlds, cool
Sweet.
And kind of
you cool on the way up.
The haul up, and then we got the views at the top.
Nice. Very good. All right. Well, let's get to it. Let's talk about renovation home loans. I have to admit, I have not done a lot of these, but it seems like a really good opportunity, but very few people know enough information to make that right choice. So let's talk first about distressed property. So that would be homes that are in disrepair. Is that what this renovation home loan is for?
It can be. Yeah, I think that's what it's most often thought of. So a property that's, in dire straits, it needs a lot of work. It's not maybe inhabitable at the moment due to lack of upkeep or maybe a project that went south and wasn't finished. But it also can be used for a home that's buttoned up to add luxury finishes, a swimming pool, even an ADU. So that's a hot topic here locally. If you bought a single family home and it has the potential of an ADU, we can do a renovation loan to build that ADU.
Oh, interesting. And so you had said you can do this for even rehab. So conventional FHA, VA, what are we talking about here when you cast?
Yeah, so we really have renovation home loans on multiple different chassis, and they are available with as little as 3% down on a conventional mortgage or an FHA loan with 3.5% down. So it really helps, in our market where we have a lack of inventory. If you see homes on the market that have been there for a while and you want to buy a primary residence, we can help you obtain financing on those homes, do the renovation so that it's livable, and move in within 6 months.
Okay, so moving in within 6 months. So how bad can this house be?
It can be non-financeable to start. It can have, subfloors, holes in the floor. It can literally not pass an inspection or an appraisal, and we can still do the financing as long as the after renovation completed project meets city codes.
Okay. And how does somebody go about, like, you find a property and there's going to be a lot of cash buyers and stuff like that, competing for this property. So how does one kind of evaluate and compete to utilize this renovation home loan product?
Yeah, so I think it's, for maybe a property where the cash buyers have evaluated it and it just doesn't have the numbers. It doesn't pencil out unless you're going to live there for a while and let the equity build over time. So it could be, something that where the days on market has increased and the cash buyers have already vetted it and it's still just sitting there. That's really the opportunity for a home buyer.
Gotcha. So it's not a type of loan that you would use to compete. It would be for the one that's been sitting around for a little while.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And typically when we see something like that, one where it's a cash buyer going to go really fast, it's priced pretty aggressively. Conversely, when you see something that's been sitting on the market a little while, you're probably seeing something that that maybe they overpriced it to begin with, and they're kind of thinking, okay, well, we'll take something. And you, the buyer, can look at it through a little bit of a different lens. And the after rehab value, who determines that?
Yep, great question. So what we ask of the buyer is that they have a contractor selected and they go to the property and they put together a plan. So they know what materials are going to be used, how much labor is going to be involved, what the scope of the work is. And we give those plans to the appraiser, and they actually appraise the property based on what it's going to look like at the end of the construction. And the value is based on that after renovation value.
Okay. And your real estate agent can help you with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to lean on you, especially to make sure that we're in the ballpark. And if it needs too much work and you're like, it's probably not going to pencil based on what the seller is looking for, then we might need to back away. But we can present that to the seller and say, hey, you've priced it incorrectly. Here's our data. Here's what the comps show of an after renovation value. We need to get it at this price in order for this to work, and see if they're willing to take our offer.
So Tucker, what is the delta difference? Meaning if I look at a property and say that's 300,000, but the after rehab value is going to be 200, let's be realistic. Let's say it's 300,000, after rehab will be 400,000. Are you guys loaning the 100,000 minus 3% of 400,000?
Correct.
And is there a max?
A max in terms of what that renovation budget can be?
Yeah.
It depends on the purchase price. So yeah, there are maximums depending on FHA and conventional loan options. But yeah, we don't want to go to 100%. And so they're going to limit that. It depends on the scope of the work. I'm trying to look at this up as quickly as I can in terms of how it's done. But usually it's about 50%. So if we're acquiring the property for 200, they will allow us to borrow an additional 100,000 for the renovation budget.
Gotcha. Okay, so
that initial budget.
That makes sense. So that's a little bit of a difference there, understanding that there's a difference between those two.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to turn off my virtual background because I think it's slowing me down. There we go. All right. Lastly, can I perform the work myself?
Yeah, I get this question a lot because people want to save money by swinging the hammer themselves. And the answer is no. This needs to be a licensed bonded contractor, somebody other than the home buyer that's going to perform the work. So we have to get that bid. It's going to be an honest bid from a contractor that's performing the work for profit or as a business in order to make it work. But you get to bring your contractor to the table. So you get to go out and vet them and choose them. And then select the contractor of your choice. What I really love about the conventional options as opposed to FHA is FHA also assigns a HUD consultant that oversees the project, oversees the bids. And a lot of contractors are a little bit apprehensive to work with them. They're just like, we'd rather not. We have enough work as it is. But on the conventional side, there's no consultant whatsoever. As long as the contractor bids are approved by the lender, they can do their work and have no real oversight other than an inspector performing regular, audits of the work so that they can approve draws.
Gotcha. Okay. What if the listing says cash only? Can you help?
Yep. So this is the big one. Is I think that just a lot of listing agents aren't aware of renovation loans, and I think your newest team member might be able to help us out on this as well. But they're just not aware. They see appraisal issues, like, hey, there's no way that an appraiser is going to come in here and be okay with the property, so let's just list cash only. So I think it's an opportunity for us to bring some awareness to the market and present, hey, we have a potential buyer. They are using financing and it is acceptable for this property. Are you willing to talk to us? And see if they're willing to talk to us. They may say, no, we're looking for a cash only buyer, and that, we can't overcome that. But for the most part, it's just a myth that cash is the only thing that works for these types of properties.
Awesome. Well, that's great. This is a great perspective, especially because there are some people out there that have the idea of they don't need the perfect finished house, and they can see the vision of new carpet, new paint, new walls, new drywall, all that kind of stuff. So, is there a system in the house that would not be able to be a part of this rehab?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we can construct a ground up ADU. So, we can
Right.
really do everything from bringing in sewer, power, electricity, building a brand new structure as long as it meets city code and it's not larger than the dwelling that's already there. Swimming pools are acceptable. You name it, we can do it.
Swimming pools?
Swimming
Sweet.
pools. Yeah.
Yes. That's what I was thinking. My backyard is just full of dogs and grass, and I have to mow it all the time. I think it'd be awesome to be a pool.
Yeah. Pool and some AstroTurf.
Nice.
There
Yes.
we go.
All right, Tucker, thanks so much for coming on. After this short little commercial break, we're going to bring on our inspector, Brandon. Brockway Ring, come back after this short commercial break.
Forum Social House in downtown Bellevue is reopened for Phase 2. Enjoy our chef-cultivated menu, 369 happy hour on Fridays from 4 to 7 p.m., and of course, all the gaming your heart desires. From the interactive Topgolf Swing Suite to cutting-edge miniature golf and assorted table games, Forum Social House has something for everyone. Located at 700 Bellevue Way Northeast on the 3rd floor of Lincoln Square North, across from the cinema.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dan Edwards, with the Eastside Real Estate team, and you are watching Seattle's Eastside Real Estate podcast. And we have brought onto our show our good friend Brandon Brockway Ring of Key Home Inspection Services. He's got 20 years, recently the lead inspector for the last 8 years, and he comes from a family that's in the construction industry. Per him, he still remembers running around on roofs when he was less than 5 years old. And throughout the house, he got home inspections after trying to go a different route. Working in sales, he learns that being in the trade was much, much more his calling, and he discovered home inspections and understands that's where he belongs. Welcome back to the show, Brandon. How you doing today?
Thank you. Doing good. Doing good. Feels good to be back.
All right, cool. How was your Memorial Day weekend? Did you do anything fun?
It was nice. Yeah. We're rebuilding our fire pit and making a patio in our backyard. So lots of hauling dirt and rocks and sand and yeah.
I have a what's the word I'm looking for? A new love affair with a show on Netflix called American Barbecue Showdown. I think is what it's called, Barbecue Showdown. Have you watched that show?
Yeah, I actually have. Yeah.
I basically cry watching that show. I know that sounds really weird, but I love the passion that the people from all walks of life kind of come together to compete and help each other out. I think it's like nothing's better than America than a backyard barbecue where you get Southern food, you get West Coast mix. And anyways, so when you said building a new fire pit, I was thinking myself about building a fire pit out back that I can use for like smoking meat. Although the two dogs might jump on it, I'm just going to have to figure out the logistics on that one.
Working on that too with my dog.
Yeah, right. All right. So today's topic is new construction, right? And what can go wrong? A lot of people think it's not necessary to get an inspection on new construction. Let's start with the big picture. Why? Why do we need inspections on new construction?
This is where a lot of people don't understand of what the difference of what we do versus a city inspector. So a lot of people think, oh, the cities came through, they've looked at all the stuff, should be fine. They've had all these checks and balances. But a lot of it comes down to, it's kind of like the game of telephone, where you tell one friend, it's kind of like the person who draws up, the architect draws it up, and that person, you have another person who looks at it, and you have another person who looks at it, another person, then gets down to the general contractors, subcontractors, and they sub out sometimes other subcontractors. So everything gets all kind of confused. But then what happens is you have the city who's supposed to check on that. But what the city doesn't do is they don't look at certain areas, the actual most important parts of the areas of the house. Cities are not allowed to go up on the roofs, look at the roofs in any form other than from the ground. They're also not required to crawl through a crawl space. I've been at plenty of inspection sites where they just pop right in the entrance and spin in a circle and say, it's good. And then I've also seen times where they're not required to get into an attic and really look around an attic. They usually just pop their head in there and be like, there's insulation, there's trusses, we're good. So there's been a lot of areas on these newer homes that are being skipped a lot more these days, also because of the workload that they have. So I've been to sites where I'm doing inspections as well, where I see the city inspector drive up and then they just write on the tag real quick, slap on the electrical panel. They never even opened it. And, I'll have to say I did open it up later. I did the inspection on that one and breakers were not working the way they should. They didn't trip properly. And there was actually 2 melting wires in that panel, for example.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you, what is like the worst thing you've discovered?
There was a community in Lake Stevens where it's quite interesting how they sheetrocked over windows. I was able to go into the crawl space and you could pull floor joists out. So they never glued them, nailed them, nothing. Like I just hit one and it would be like a little bit of a domino effect, and it scared the crap out of me. So I got out of there very quickly. But because when you put in a floor joist, it bends a certain way, and they didn't have it set the right way. They didn't glue. They didn't do anything correct in this particular community. And the worst one that I had was there was moisture everywhere in the walls. This is about like 8 years ago, I want to say. And anywhere we would go, we were testing with moisture meters, and there was water in the crawl space. There was water in the interior walls. They had it staged and everything. Like they just pushed nails through the wall. The flooring was wet. I inspected the house next to it, and by the next week, they had demolished that all the way back down to the foundation.
No way.
That was the biggest one that I probably saw, where the house was totally gone the next day. And I was like, didn't see that coming.
I'm like, that is like the biggest screw up I have ever heard of. Like, how do you build a house that's like wet all the way through? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it was astonishing. The city, they didn't notice it, but when me and another inspector, we walked up and the whole house was tilted, and we were like, the house isn't even straight. And yeah, basically somebody got fired from that.
Yeah, I think the key here, especially in just this conversation, is new construction doesn't mean better, right? And I'll have buyers come to me and say, I just want new construction. And, there's a saying, they don't make them like they used to. And now I know of new home builders that are great, right? However, 50 years ago, they were using, complete plywood 2x4s, right? Not like a composite joist, which is made out of glue and shavings, wood shavings. So I think it's super important to get an educated eye on that. Now, what about sewer inspection? Why would you need a sewer inspection for new construction?
That's another area where people really, they don't think about it, because one, it's under the ground. They think it's brand new. Everything should be fine. I've got tons of stories on this one. I'll just kind of tell you one of, I was doing an inspection in Seattle where it was an old home had sat there. They demolished that and built these new townhomes there. Well, when they built them, one thing they did was after they ran the sewer line, they took the main water line and they bored it through the ground. They just went through the sewer line with the main water line. Whatever they're doing, they eventually somehow punctured the main water line, so it's just draining right into their sewer line. And so over time, though, you're just going to have a bunch of debris hitting the main water line, and that's going to cause some backups. Gotcha. But I was able to get my camera just enough underneath there, but I was also see that they went to an old concrete line that was not in good shape at all. It was actually collapsed. And so
they had PVC running. Is it PVC or is it?
They had SDR 35 running into concrete, and the concrete that was all collapsed. So you can see water was running, but if anything solid was going down, it's stopping there.
Nasty. Okay, so then, I have a story like that, maybe not that bad, but new construction, and we're inspecting it, and the inspector goes to me, "Hey, Dan, this house is not connected to a sewer line." I was like, "What is it, septic?" He's like, "No, it's just capped." So they hadn't got their septic system approved yet, and we were in contract with them, and it took. We were in contract in early July, and we didn't close till October because the builder and the water and sewer company were fighting over connection to the sewer line. So yeah, it's always I mean, there's a lot of things going on with crazy offers. Even if you waive your inspection, you should still hire an inspector.
I agree.
100%.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is all the time I have for now. We've got another question, but we'll save that for our next time. I think, Brandon, you're going to be a regular on the show because obviously there are great questions that we can kind of talk about. I understand there's a special promotion you're offering to any of our listeners right now.
Yeah. If you're listening, use the promo code DAN5, and that will give you 5% off on your next inspection. So it's an uppercase D, lowercase a and then an n, then just a 5. It is case sensitive, kind of
Okay.
annoying, but use that, and then yeah. And then
if you got any problems, call me, and I'll make sure we secure that 5% home inspection discount. All right. Thank you so much, Brandon, for coming on. We're going to take a very short commercial break, and we're going to come back with David Stallings.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Are you tired of not knowing where your money is going? Do you feel like you start getting ahead on your finances, then get hit by an unexpected expense and feel behind? Doug Peterson with Get Priorities Straight helps guide you to getting your money to do what you want it to do instead of wondering where it went. Doug has helped ambitious, busy, successful people be delighted by handling their money wisely. To have a conversation with Doug, call 206-264-4424 or email meeting@letsgps.com or info@getprioritiesstraight.com.
Yes, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dan Edwards, managing broker of the Eastside Real Estate Team, and we are joined by one of the newer members, David Stalling, who is a great addition to our team. Now, I've got a introduction, so hold on one second. So, David Stalling is the principal of D-Stall Home Services, and D-Stall Home Services is a veteran-owned and family-operated general construction and residential remodeling company. His background is in home equity renovations and 203K loan utilization, which we talked about earlier today. At his company, they are dedicated to serving their nation's heroes by providing a top-notch construction and remodeling services. His skilled team is equipped to handle all types of residential projects, from smaller handymans to full renovations. They understand the unique challenges that each project may face, and he's committed to making construction and remodeling process as seamless and stress-free as possible. David, let's start. Welcome to the show first. Welcome
Thanks
to
for
our
having me. Thanks for having me.
And welcome to the team. I'm super excited. I'm going to kind of jump into some of the things I learned about David when we first met. So, David, how did you get started in real estate?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I got started in real estate when I was still active duty. I was in the Navy. I did a total of 10.5 years. I was in a position where I was in a supervisor role, and I could see my guys coming to and from the command. And I just noticed after talking to a lot of them that they've been having a lot of issues lately with realtors just not understanding PCSing and everything that goes into a move like that. And I had the time and the availability to get licensed while I was still active duty, and I started helping out my shipmates. If they learned that they were getting stationed somewhere, I could help them list their home for sale or manage their property for them since I was still there. But it really gave me the foot in the door and got me familiar with real estate while I was still active. And then when I separated, it felt right, and I really wanted to go full time. I enjoy it.
Okay, so then tell me about the remodeling and contracting. How did you get started in that?
Sure. Yeah, I actually grew up doing stuff like that with my dad, and then I actually completely remodeled our house in South Carolina myself, and that was just a blast. And I figured other people have houses to renovate too. Why not help them out? It's another way for me to help. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. I enjoy being able to see that end product and know that I did something. I made something cool.
It's kind of tangible and physical, right? Versus the experience of real estate agent. Super awesome, right? But you're not like changing or transforming. But I see how those things go together for your perspective. Sure. So let's start with some of the remodeling jobs. So what kind of jobs are you qualified to help out with?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I am licensed, bonded, and insured. So I have those big three all checked off. I primarily do residential. I am able to do some commercial jobs, but commercial buildings are really put together differently. So it's not something I have as much experience with. I prefer residential, then I can actually meet the homeowner, see what their needs are, and see how I can really have their home meet their needs better. And I think that's really what it's all about, right? It's it's not my home, it's theirs. So I really listen to them, and I'm upfront about it. If it's a project that is out of the scope for me, if it's too large for myself and my crew, I'll let them know. And if they're okay with me still being a project manager over that side, I can subcontract out those jobs as well.
Yeah, which is the idea of a general contractor, right? You're not always doing all of it. Is there a particular part of it that you really love?
Usually anything that has to do with wood, to be honest. Carpentry and woodworking is an old passion of mine. So wood is just something that's so easy to turn into anything. So really anytime that someone wants, and there's demo. Demo's a ton of fun too.
Hey, I could participate in that. I'm
Yeah, there you go.
definitely a good demo person, but the finished carpentry, not so much. So what is it? What are some of the things you don't do?
Sure. Yeah, I don't care to do landscaping. It's not a big thing. I don't have green thumbs. Foundation work isn't something that I do. That's anything like that requires specialized equipment. I'm going to end up subcontracting that out to another company just because that's not something that I have that day in and day out experience with. Whereas if it's, remodeling a space in the home, whether that be, living room, basement, kitchen, what have you, I love those jobs. I can do those day in, day out.
Okay. What is the favorite part of these projects?
Favorite part's probably the finishing touches, the part that you just said you don't like. That's where you really see it all come together, where throughout the process you can kind of see the big changes. If you move a wall, you can tell that the space looks different, but you don't really see how it all comes together until that very end.
Gotcha. And then how do you go over the permit process? Do you handle that, or does the homeowner handle it?
I originally was handling it. I found that it's something that, because the homeowner is required to sign the majority of it, it became more of, I offered permit assistance where I can offer some guidance and tell people, hey, go here, talk to these people, or hey, you're going to have to get an engineer drawing for this, talk to this guy. So I can be that resource, but I don't actually handle the process itself.
Yeah, I know that there are folks out there that are permit consultants. Might be a good connection for you because of the diversity of codes at various cities, which is actually going to lead me to my next question: is where do you go? Who do you service?
Well, I service a large amount of this area, actually. Snohomish County is my primary county, but I'm out of Mukilteo myself, so I go across to Island County quite often, and I also go up and down to Skagit and King County.
Okay. And then what is your favorite project so far?
I would say, it's been a few years now, but I remodeled the living room and completely redid the mantle and the fireplace around, and it was a blast. But I did built-ins on either side of it. But for the mantle, I was actually able to find a pre-Civil War ceiling beam from a church, an old church that got torn down. And I milled it down to size, and I installed it up as the mantle, so it actually still had some of the old wear and everything to it. Put a nice oil on it, but it just turned out really nice in contrast to all of the white trim and molding around it. It just really made that old piece of history pop, and I loved being able to bring that history into the home.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of fun when you can do stuff custom like that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Do you offer design assistance?
Various levels. Yeah, I do have the ability to bring in a designer if that's something that the homeowner wants to do. Absolutely. If they have a lower budget, then maybe a designer isn't quite what they're looking for, but we could still offer some level of design assistance.
Okay, awesome. All right. So from a standpoint, why does having the knowledge that you have make you a great real estate agent?
Well, I think a great real estate agent is someone that is really just looking to help, honestly, but they're willing to go above and beyond and to know the background to the process, the part that is really keeping the homeowner safe. And I think that adding the construction side into that just gives me another layer of knowledge to the point where I can bring that additional safety. I know when something doesn't look right, and I can also offer recommendations or, kind of like Tucker said, I can go through and say, hey, this is, if you want to fix up this house, you need to do this, 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 and this in order to make these repairs. And I think that that's a really helpful tool to bring to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a great conversation that you and I had as we decided to get into business together as a part of the Eastside real estate team, where I can, send you out to our listings prior to going on the market and nail out a bunch of things that are going to actually improve the value of the house. We've already had that service, but in the past we'd had to kind of grab people from here and from there, and now we can utilize your expertise. And then I think 100% for both investors and buyers. I think what we've talked about today with the 203K rehab loans, for a buyer out there that can see through the current state of a house that's been sitting on the market, why not take advantage of the money that's being offered from the banks to actually paint it the color you want, or to add the wall, or take out a wall, or a pool to the back? I don't know if that's something you could do. Probably need a pool guy.
I would subcontract a pool guy. I should probably add that to that list. But that's a great point. As why not go ahead and pull it out from the bank? And a lot of people, they move in and say, oh yeah, I'll do this later. That later usually doesn't come. Let's be real. That later rarely comes. And if it does, people don't realize the price tag that comes with it. So if you're able to go ahead and bundle that into your home loan, I mean, in my opinion, that's a win-win.
Yeah, it's about cash flow because you're paying over 30 years. I think we need a segment to come up. Let's go find a fixer that's been on the market a little while. Let's do one of these analysis and then show people what they could do with it. I think that'd be really fun if we went and took pictures. You went down and did your contracting thing and said, look, here's the deal. And then we get Tucker to buy it, to finance it. You just have to find the right buyer for it.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. All right. Well, that concludes our segment. David, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to bring Brandon back on for a little crosstalk segment.
Thank you.
I do believe, I don't know where this went. You might have gotten rid of it, or at the end of our show, Lorenz is our producer. He's in the background. But since we're talking about investments, I think it's an uncertain time right now with the stock market, inflation. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And I know throughout all of the last 20 or 30 years, the most stable investment is your home. And as we look forward to, building lasting stability in your own world, I believe investing in real estate is the right thing to do, which is why I'm assembling these teams. Oh, and here it is, the cash flow game. I believe we have a graphic, do we? Let's see if we can put that up. There it is. Okay, it kind of goes over our faces. So let me see if I do that. All right. So cash flow game night is going to be coming up on the 9th of June, and that's going to be at our Kirkland office. It's going to start at 5:30. It's going to be kind of a speed round, and it's just to get you in the mindset of investing in real estate. So if you are thinking about investing in real estate or have played around with the idea, then I think it's a good idea to join us for that event. Sorry, I'm playing around with all these things. Not that one. This one. Yes, yeah, that one. So if you don't have an invitation, let us know. But it will be June 9th. Starts at, I think it's going to start at 6. So try and show up at 5:30. There will be food provided, and then we'll play this game to kind of open you up to the mindset. So that is the podcast for today. You're watching a Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Team podcast. I want to thank Tucker, who had to run to another meeting, David Stallings, and Brandon Rockway Ring. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you watching. Please don't forget to share and like this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.